So this is how you use FactSet to find your good comps. And honestly, this is going to be a tutorial for just the comps portion of the evaluation that you can use for investment club pitches. So first thing you're going to want to do is find your company here on FactSet. Hopefully you have a login, but once you have the company that you want to value, in this case we'll just use Apple because it's easy. You then go to the comps analysis, and what you'll see here, depending on again how well known your company is, they might have like most have name competitors, and then it also has it here kind of by like industry, by region, by size, and honestly, like those are the main criteria for selecting your comps. And so, in this case, you can filter by these, but I think the best way to really hit a good comp set is to look through the companies on here. You can go with either of these, whether it's the communications and network hardware, or communication devices. All of these seem relatively good comps. I think Apple's name competitors are pretty good, but one that I'm not seeing here, like I'm seeing, okay, App 11. I don't know what that is honestly, but for example, I don't think it's super relevant. And again, the criteria that I'm mainly using is industry being number one. Are they within the same sort of space in that regard, and same market? Size. It's hard to match Apple's size, it being currently the second most valuable company in the world. So that is a challenge when it comes to finding comps for Apple. As we look at, like their EBITDA is just ridiculous. There's also criteria like region. In Apple's case, they have a pretty global presence. I mean, obviously they have a little bit more of a market in North America, but still pretty global presence, shouldn't matter much. And then also like maturity and stuff, but that kind of factors into size. And so those are, some of the main criteria that I look for in valuing comps. You can filter all of these views, but if you back to this example here, say for example, I don't think App 11 is a good comp. I think that maybe it's too small. Looking at like their EBITDA is literally 1/70th the size of Apple's. So I'm going to remove them. And this is how you remove from the comp set, and you see it disappears after a second. Say for example, there's another company I want to add. Looking at here, I don't know, for example, say I put like Samsung here. This is, again, I didn't do much research into this, but say for example, I think that they'd be a better comp. I add them to the data set. You'll see that these average multiples all change. And this is how you effectively alter your comp set. And so for basic pitches in which you use like a DCF, where you rely on other evaluation methods, this is all you really need to do for the comp set. Once you have your selected companies and you feel satisfied with it, go ahead and take a screenshot of this. Maybe provide some analysis. In this, like maybe I'd point out the fact that they are very large. While Microsoft and Alphabet are similar in terms of EBITDA, and they just by far have much more free cash flow than all these other companies. You could point to the multiples, which are great for valuation. You can see that they do have above average EV/EBITDA, as well as price to sales and EV to sales, which is a general good indicator. And so there's all of that information. But if you want to do a pitch that relies more heavily on the comp set, the other alternative kind of route you can take really is this. In the model, this is just the modeling that you should have at this point. If not, definitely reach out and get the model from somebody. But this is directly from Wall Street Prep. And what it is a comps analysis, just in a different form here. What you do for this is you manually take your company, and you input basically all this information for it. And so this is the example. It gives just 4 comps. If you do this, ideally, I'd like at least 5, maybe 6. Ideally, even 7 is probably good. But in this case, they have 4. And so you take all this information. This can be all found on the company's last 10K, or likely, honestly, through FactSet. if you just have all this information, you can probably just poke around FactSet for it. None of it's hard to find. I mean, like, none of it's hard to calculate. It's all relatively easy to find. It's just a lot of information. Last quarter, you can convert FactSet here into like a quarterly view. So like, say for example, I want to pull this information for Apple, go to financials, I go to income statement, and instead of displaying everything once it loads here in full like fiscal years, you can also do it in like fiscal quarters and stuff like that. If you want to see more of this information, unless you want to just pull 10 Qs, because that's also another way that you can do it. But this is just, I find, to be a slightly faster way. And so there's all that. You fill out wherever there's this blue font on the yellow background. Again, a lot of it is not too challenging to find, and you'll get faster at it over time. But it does take a little bit just to manually input all these, and these are all just formulas, right? So don't worry about that. But what it'll do is spit out this comps table, which if you really want to make it like look pretty, you can get rid of like grid lines, and then ultimately end up like screenshotting this whole model, like this whole thing, into your PowerPoint that you present. And you can talk about the competitors and kind of why you picked who you picked. Maybe compare some of the multiples here. You see that they have much higher EV/EBITDA than like that, and like compared to like the average, right? It's much higher. So just stuff of that nature. This is another way you can value a company, really. And so this is the blank output tab, what it looks like, and obviously the blank input's going to have nothing in it. But go ahead, give it a shot.